Good morning, everyone. She is one of the top Democrats on Capitol Hill, and now Congresswoman Katherine Clark is here on OTR to answer our question. It is time to go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Thanks for joining us this morning, everyone, on this final Sunday in July. I'm Ed Hardy.
I'm Charmin Sacchetti, and joining us at the table today, Congresswoman Katherine Clark. She is the Minority Whip, the second most senior position in the House Democratic Caucus. The Congresswoman has represented Massachusetts' 5th District since 2013, and before that was at the State House. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's good to be with you.
Thanks for being here. And full disclosure, she is my Congress representative. I live in her district. So
the Fighting Fifth.
The Fighting Fifth. We live there. Let's start with Jeffrey Epstein. And to be frank with you, I never thought I'd use the words Jeffrey Epstein in a conversation in 2025 with you right now. But last week, House Republicans joined Democrats in a House Oversight Committee vote demanding the release of the Epstein files. And this is an issue that has not gone away. Doesn't appear that it's going to go away. So, what did you make of the Speaker of the House sending the House home early, ensuring that no votes would happen at least until the fall?
Well, like you, I never thought that this would be the topic of such discussion, and that we'd be sent home early to avoid doing the work of the people, to avoid this whole topic. And the reason I think that is sticking is because this was one of the principal promises that Donald Trump has made. Everybody's known he's been associated with Jeffrey Epstein, but this 180 that he's done is a cover-up. And that's what the American people are reacting to. And Democrats, we're going to push for transparency on it.
James Comer actually said yesterday that when he goes home, he anticipates the questions will continue.
That's
right.
They
will not stop.
I don't think they are going to stop because they have made this such a conspiracy theory. And now they are saying Trump is in these files. I don't think that's unexpected. I don't know what's in the files, but the fact that they are going to such lengths to hide them and change the conversation, this has really become one of trust in the president, that Democrats have had very little trust in the president, but now it is his own base that is questioning him.
Now, appearing in the files is not necessarily a sign of wrongdoing. However, does it seem as though Democrats have really found their weapon against President Trump?
You know, our view of this is a continuation of what we have seen from President Trump, certainly in the big ugly bill. He protects the very wealthy, he protects the elites, and it is at the expense of people at home. And in our country right now, when 60% of households are saying they cannot afford the basics, and his signature legislation takes away health care from 15 million Americans, takes away funding for our public schools, is leaving 2 million children who rely on the SNAP program threatened to have those food programs reduced, if not eliminated. That is his answer, to give tax breaks to the very wealthiest. So it's connected, this protection of the very wealthy, the elites who were friends and partners with Jeffrey Epstein.
How are Democrats going to spend these next few weeks before you go back in the fall? Are you going to be holding town halls in potentially Republican districts trying to make hay of this?
You know, our focus is going to be on what this bill is going to do and what it to the American people, the big ugly bill that they passed, and our view for the future. What we say, we will fight for the American people. So we're holding days of actions. We'll be holding town halls on Medicaid, on protecting Social Security.
On Jeffrey Epstein?
And Medicare. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein is not the focus of our days of action. It is part of the story of choosing to make the winner's circle in this country very small, that doesn't include 99.9 9% of the people in this country. And so we're going to be talking about those issues that matter. How do we strengthen our labor unions? How do we protect health care? What's our vision for reducing the cost of prescription drugs? How do we make life more affordable and give people access to the American dream? Because they're looking at our system right now and they don't see a place for themselves in this economy.
I'm not going to pound the drum on Jeffrey Epstein, but let me just ask you: is this is the White House? The White House is downplaying this, as you mentioned. You know, it is creating distractions or other things to look at over here while something happens over here. Is it damaging at all how the White House is treating it?
Oh, it's extremely damaging to them. And that is why they sent us home. Because, again, this was a fundamental promise that now he is covering up. And as information leaks out, we all knew he was involved with him, but as it leaks out that he too knows he's in those files, but refusing and making just convoluted arguments about, well, other people mess with the files, but waited until the Trump presidency to reveal them, none of it makes sense, and that is what is enraging his base.
You talked a little bit about this, but Democrats obviously have been searching for a way to regroup after some pretty substantial losses last November. How are Democrats working now to win back the trust of the American voters?
Yeah. Listen, the American voters are telling us loud and clear what their number one priority, and that's building an affordable life. That's being able to have the basics and feel like if you're working hard, you're playing by the rules, you should be able to get ahead. And so we are not only going to show the contrast with the president who said, I will lower costs of living on day one, and has done just the opposite, whether it's through the big ugly bill and cuts to health care, to food programs, to our public schools, to veterans benefits, or whether it's through his tariff policy that we are going to see hit home for folks in back to school shopping. Clothes, shoes, basic electronics, all are going up. And unfortunately for consumers, those prices are going to continue to rise through the next 9 months. And what we are looking at is potentially clothes and shoes going up 20%. This is for families that already feel like they're not making it. So our message to the American voters is going to be, we see you. You deserve better than this. You deserve to have health care when your family needs it, that's affordable and that you can actually access. You deserve to have a lower cost of living, and we have ideas how to do that around childcare and senior care and housing.
I want to ask you about sort of that DNC autopsy that we've heard so much about in recent weeks of the 2024 election. It's reportedly going to avoid any discussions of whether or not former President Biden should have run, whether or not former Vice President Kamala Harris should have been the nominee. Should those factors be ignored in that decision?
You know, I have not seen this report. I haven't seen a draft, so I know what you know about it. But here's the thing. Whatever it discusses, I do think it comes back down to, do Americans see that they have opportunity? And they feel like they don't. And they're telling us that in every poll. And now you're seeing it reflected in Donald Trump's economic numbers, which has always been his strength.
But can Democrats sort of do a proper introspection if they ignore that?
You know, I don't think anybody's ignoring any part of it. And I can't speak to the DNC report because I haven't seen it. But listen, that's all part of it. Did we do enough for the very real wins for the American people, whether it was investment in infrastructure, in broadband for every part of this country, getting lead pipes out, fixing our roads and bridges, updating air travel? Did we do enough to connect that to real people?
And your answer to those questions is?
You know, we need to do a better job. We need to show the American people not only that we pass this legislation, but that we see the struggle they are having. They're mad, and they should be. They deserve an economy that works for them, and that is not what they're seeing happening in a broad base, and it is not what they're seeing from this administration where prices are going the wrong direction. And he is continuing to choose, with the House GOP in lockstep, the very, very wealthy and connected and largest corporations over their families.
Congresswoman Katherine Clark is in the chair. We're on the record this morning. Stay with us.